welcome into the Flippin' Hippos YouTube channel. I'm Star the Flippin' Hippo, and we are officially through the first month of 2021, and so that means it's time for Plush that sold on eBay. We're going to take a look at each and every single plush that sold on the eBay platform in the month of January. We sold a total of 25 plush in January. There are 31 days in the month, so that averages out to less than one plush a day. That sounds bad, but when you do the math, that actually averages out to a daily sell-through rate of 0.2%. Just a little bit lower than where you should actually be with plush. Plush is very, very long tail. It is very slow to sell. It is one of the slowest, if not the slowest or most long tail category on eBay. To give you an idea, used clothing has a daily sell-through rate of around 0.5%. So if you had 2,000 listings on eBay and they were all used clothing, you would average out to about 10 sales a day. And if you had 2,000 listings and they were all plush, you would typically average out to around 5 sales a day, because plush averages out to about 0.25% sell-through rate, about half of what used clothing does. So when you do the math, a 0.2% is a little bit less than 0.25%, but it's pretty good. So it's a little slow, but I think things all over the whole month for us were slow. I think they were pretty good for most folks. I've talked about recently in our what sold on eBay videos that Keith and I had slow sales due to us taking most of December off and not listing as much as we normally do, as we had been focusing on some other projects and some other things going on in our lives. So I'm happy with what we did sell. I'm hoping sales are going to increase as we get back into our listing routines. And you guys know I just recently purchased a giant wholesale lot of plush from Greg, as well as I still have tons of plush that I purchased off of Dave and Bill. So I'm going to be putting a lot of plush into our store and hopefully be boosting our sales. But just keep in mind that plush is super slow. So if you're new to plush and you're just getting into it and your plush isn't moving, that's okay. In plush years, a plush that sits for a week or a month or 6 months, that's equivalent to a pair of jeans that sat for a month. They are very, very slow. All right, let's jump in with the Pooh Bear that you're looking at. This Pooh is a vintage Disney Winnie the Pooh by Mattel. He talks and his nose wiggles, and he sold for a best offer of $9. He was featured in our What Sold video early in the week, and the person that bought him left a very nice comment on our YouTube channel, and I just kind of wanted to reach out to her and say thank you for sharing your story with us. She purchased this for a memorial for her daughter, who she recently lost, and this had been her favorite toy as a child. So thank you so much for sharing your story with us, and I'm happy that our Pooh could become such a part of your family and your memories. Next up, we have a Izzy. I almost called her Jake, but this is Izzy. She's a character from Jake and the Neverland Pirates from Disney Junior. This is an official Disney Parks plush. Typically, any of the characters from the Disney Junior and the Nickelodeon Junior shows do well. Some of them are going to comp lower, and some of them are going to comp higher, just depending on the popularity of the show and the character. This one was only 50 cents and sold for $10.99, shipped first class. We have an M&M here that is in a pink cat costume, and I wonder why this one sold. Of course, it's because it's a Valentine's Day plush. Again, this was another 50-cent find. She does have damage on her shoes there, which is shown in the photograph and denoted here, and again in the description below. And she sold for $13.99. and shipped first class. Here we have Boyd's Bear's Riesling Bear Doe. He's part of their best dressed bears. Boyd's Bears are a good bread and butter brand. They are more of a collector item than like a stuffed animal kids will keep as toys. So typically when you find them, they'll almost always have their little cardboard tag. And they usually have cute names. Often they're part of a collection, like he's part of the best dressed. A lot of them have cute names like puns, like this guy is Riesling Bear Doe. I really like Boyd's Bears. I don't pass up on them when I do find them. This guy sold for $18.74 and shipped first class. Here we have a Hershey's bear. I do like to get any animals I find that have recognizable food, Hershey's, Reese's, anything like that. I had a Almond Joy bear once. I believe he was Almond Joy. He may have been Mounds. Anything that's recognizable candy or food, I like to get because you're getting a 2-for-1. It's an animal and it's a recognizable food, and somebody somewhere likes that food and probably would like a collectible animal from that particular snack item. This guy sold for $14.24, and he was a wee little guy, so he shipped first class. Here we have a Gans Webkinz. I show these on the channel all the time, and I tell you all the time, they're hit or miss. Some are going to be very low-end bread and butter, and some are going to be bolos. It just depends on the character and the animal. I advise everyone, if your cost of goods is low enough, grab them up, bring them home, take the chance. If you don't like filler or bread and butter, or you don't want to take the chance, comp them before you bring them home. I usually find them for 50 cents or even less at church sales or whatever, so I always take the risk. This one sold for $8.99, and he shipped first class. Here we have a Fluff and Stuffed Lamb. This guy came to me in a mystery lot box, but this will be something that I would pick up again. I would consider Fluff and Stuffed bread and butter. 50 cents at Goodwill, 75 cents maybe even at a church sale. I would pick up Fluff and Stuffs. I had 2 lambs and 2 tigers. All 4 sold pretty fast. $13.99 was what this lamb sold for, and they all shipped first class. And then we have an Aurora Flopsies. Aurora is a pretty good brand. This particular line is called Flopsies, and it has official adoption certificates with it. I do like Aurora, and whenever I see anything unique like this that's part of a collection, I do like to grab it. This guy sold for $13.99, and he shipped first class. We have a seal from Six Flags. So theme parks is something I like to pick up. Six Flags. We have Knott's Berry's Farm and Cedar Point out here. We also have local to Pittsburgh, we have some theme parks. And then we have like the Hershey World out in Hershey, Pennsylvania, and they have the petting zoo. Disney, obviously, and, the Universal parks. But if you ever see anything from like SeaWorld and Six Flags, Disney, any of those kinds of parks, I recommend picking them up. Worst case, you're going to bring home a bread and butter plush. But even then, they typically move a little faster than most plush because people do like to collect things from those parks. Sometimes people will forget to get a souvenir while they're there, or they don't have room in their luggage for souvenir. So they get back home and they get online and start looking for a souvenir from where they had been to kind of commemorate their trip after the fact. I also have found that water animals or ocean animals do really well. Stingrays, seals, walruses, orcas, the killer whales, sharks, things like that. This seal sold on the best offer of $16 and shipped first class. Here we have Chip, one of the chipmunks from the Rescue Rangers. This one is an official Disneyland Walt Disney World. So again, there's the official theme parks tag, and the Disney animals from Disneyland Disney World Disney store are always going to do a little bit better than Disney animals that are made by Hasbro, Mattel, things like that. This chip sold on a best offer of $17.99, and he did ship first class. He's so cute. Little chipmunk. Next up, we have a Beanie Baby. Beanie Babies are no-lows. They are typically poop. This guy's a leftover from my mistakes that I made back in the beginning. Most of our Beanie Babies are boxed up right now. I wanted to donate them to like a children's hospital, but then after COVID had happened, a lot of the children's hospitals around here and the shelters for women and children aren't taking like stuffed animals because of COVID. So most of our Beanie Babies are boxed up. I have to figure out what I'm going to do with them. This guy somehow stayed listed. He sold for $9.37, shipped first class. And then we have a Reese's. So this is a low-end bread and butter, but I picked him up because he's Reese's again with the food recognizable candy bars. Plus he's cute. He's a little leopard print bear. So he sold for $11.24, shipped first class. Here's one of the poopers, if you guys remember, out of the mystery boxes I got with Robert. This is one of the poopers. They're called Poochies, friends, and they poop. And they did not have their poop with them, but they're animals that you squeeze, and these little glitter, sticky, gross balls pop out of their bums or their tushies, whatever you want to call it, and they poop. So they're pooping stuffed animals called Poochies. How many times can I say poop? But they all sold really fast at bread and butter prices. So if I ever saw these poopers, these Poochies in the wild, I would probably pick them up if they were like 50 cents or whatever. Most of them sold pretty fast. Some of them sold off together to the same buyers. So if you find animals that poop, apparently they're sought after and they're going to sell fast. People like pooping animals, apparently. Here we have a Thai classic. So unlike the retired original Beanie Babies, there are Thai beanies that are bolos, and there's some that are just bread and butter. There's Beanie Buddies, Beanie Boos, the classics. Some of the classics are bolos. This is an example of one of the bread and butters. This is Flags the Bear. He sold on the best offer, $12, shipped first class. This is a vintage plush, so of course he came home with me. Show you the tag. I talk about these tags a lot. The older vintage tags, they used to print on one long strip, and then they would fold it in half and attach it to the plush. And if you ever see Wallace Berry and Company, that is a good indication that that is a plush. Or sorry, that is a vintage plush, not that it is a plush. If you see Wallace and Berry, it is a good indication that it is vintage. And these old tags that are folded in half like that. Some of them will have dates on them, some won't. This one was an example of one that did not, but you can tell it's vintage by the tag. Some of them won't comp as high as others, unfortunately, because they just aren't worth what they should be on eBay. This guy had a lot of damage and a lot of stuff going on as well. And that's the other unfortunate thing when you find some of these older plush. Some people just don't take care of them as well as they should. And as they age, they don't age well. This is Count from Sesame Street. You guys probably recognize him. I took a best offer of $20 for him. I did put some bubble wrap around him. His monocle had seen better days already, and I didn't want to get it to get more damaged. Here we have the Love-A-Lot bear with the pink hearts on her belly. Care Bears, they range anywhere from bread and butter all the way up to bolo, depending on the character you have and the size and the brand. Most of them are going to be by Kelly Toy, but I've seen other brands. I've had Jumbo Funshine Bears, and I think her name is Cares a lot. They have sold for like $20 and $30. I've had tiny ones that sold for $11.99, like this one. There's vintage ones that are babies. There's a blue and a pink one and diapers. They sell for like $20, $25. But I have a general rule that I pick up any Care Bear I find. And like I said, their prices are going to range anywhere from low-end bread and butter all the way up to BOLO. So if you don't like to do filler and bread and butter, you can just comp them before you purchase them. But my rule is any Care Bear comes home with me. Here's a vintage Garfield. So here's another example of the tag. You can see that it's one long strip that's folded in half and attached. The United Feature Syndicate is almost always going to be on your vintage Garfield. And this one has a date, 1981. And this one comped pretty good for a vintage Garfield. So he sold for $19 and he shipped first class. Here we have a Peekaboo Toy. Peekaboo is kind of like a brand. Usually you find these in like those claw machines. But some of the Peekaboo toys are very unique, like this zombie. So he sold for $13.30 and shipped first class. And I would pick up Peekaboo toys if they were unique like this. Here we have a vintage Tinger. He's from Walt Disney World, Disneyland. Let me show you his tag. That is the official Disney Parks tag. That's vintage. And he comped pretty good too as well. So he sold for $19.99 and he wasn't very big at all. So he shipped first class. Here we have a Popple. These are from my childhood. Some of you may remember them. They roll up into a ball like this. Their little body goes into this little sack and then their body pops out. And that's why they're called Popples. This Popple has seen better days. Her hair is supposed to be long and soft. I can guarantee you the reason her hair is matted is because somebody at some point put her in the dryer. And she is exactly why I say never put animals in the dryer. Just let them air dry if you wash them. But she did still sell for $13.99 even with the damage, which I definitely talked about in the description and called attention to it. Oh yes, so she's an animal from the 90s. That's what I wanted to say. So if you see toys that if you're my age, if you grew up in the 80s or the 90s and you see plush or toys that you recognize from your own childhood, chances are there's something you want to source. There are Popples, depending on the character, that are in a lot better condition with their hair a lot nicer, that comp at $20 and up. Okay, next up we have a Beanie Boo, and this is one of the lower end bread and butter ones. I just picked it up because it was only 50 cents, and I'm willing to take the risk. Beanie Boos and the Gans Webkinz and things like that, when I find them in the 50-cent bin, I just bring them all home with me, and then I'll comp them as I list them. And I'm pleasantly surprised at some of them that comp really high, and a lot of them are just bread and butter. This is Wilma the Platypus, and she sold on a best offer of $10.12 and shipped first class. Then we have another vintage Applause animal here. This is Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. He didn't comp as high as I hoped he would, being that he's vintage. But here's his tag. Again, it's that long strip folded in half and then attached to the animal. So you guys can see these tags and you can start to recognize them when you find them in the wild. Applause has a lot of vintage. A lot of your vintage you're going to find is going to be Applause and that Wallace and Barry. He sold for $12.18 and he is very small, so he shipped first class. Then we have a 14-inch Minnie Mouse from the Disney store. Minnie Mouse is one of those characters that is oversaturated. So even when you find the official Disney store and Disney parks, if it's not a very unique Minnie Mouse, she's still not going to comp that high. She's still going to be bread and butter. This Minnie Mouse sold for $13.12. She's over a foot tall, and she's Disney Store, and she's still only sold for $13.12. Now, there are Minnie Mouses out there that are wearing like Easter Bunny costumes and things like that you can get $20 and $25 for, but she has to be very unique. Minnie Mouse, Mickey Mouse, Winnie the Pooh, some of the characters are just so oversaturated that they have just been raced to the bottom on their prices, and they're just not worth what they used to be. Next up, we have a Minion. Minions are kind of one of those characters, families that were popular at one time. The movies aren't so much popular as they used to be, but people still like them, so they're kind of like a bread and butter. If they came out with another movie, I guarantee you their popularity and the prices of the plush would shoot sky high. We kind of saw that when Toy Story 4 came out. Toy Story 1 was like 20 years ago, and the characters stayed pretty popular, but the prices kind of waned off over the years. But when Toy Story 4 came out, Woodies were flying off the shelves and the prices were going way up. So keep that in mind too when new movies and new shows and stuff come out. The characters in those movies and shows, their popularity will shoot up and you can raise prices on them. So this is the Pirate Matey Minion, and he sold for $12.99, shipped first class. We did wrap a piece of bubble wrap around his eyes because he has these hard goggles. And then last but not least, here's another Boyd's Bear. This is Buffington, and she's dressed in a little sailor dress, little bow on her head. She's cute. I'll show you her little card. That's her little cardboard card, and her name is Buffington, and she is an investment collectible. So that's all of the plush that sold on eBay in January. Leave your questions and comments down below in the comment section, guys. Don't forget to hit the thumbs up before you leave. It really helps the channel out. If you haven't already and you'd like to, please subscribe. Help us feed a hungry hippo. And don't forget to join our Facebook group. It's called Flippin' Hippos Reseller Pod. You can search for it on Facebook or use the handy dandy link down below in the description box. Until next time, go be productive, go make some money, and as always, thank you so much for watching. Y'all are the best. Bye.